This podcast is brought to you by Rising Phoenix alongside the Milano Cortina 2026 Paralympic Winter Games.
I remember vividly being in the ambulance when things started blacking out. I think I'm dying. It's a tough thing for a 10-year-old to kind of realize or to think of. So from my perspective, I'm on bonus time, and whatever that looks like to you, it can be chasing a professional athletic career. It can just be being a parent. You might as well make the most of it.
This episode of What Does It Take is brought to you by P&G, a proud partner of the Paralympic movement. P&G believes in the power of the everyday champions who inspire us all, and we're excited to share the stories of athletes who embodied that spirit. My first guest, which I'm super excited to talk about, his name is Jack Wallace, and before I get into bringing him on, I want everybody to understand that this guy is a stud muffin. Two-time Paralympic gold medalist who is also chasing history, a third straight title for para ice hockey. Joining us mid-training camp, he talks resilience, second chances, and his mission to make sport accessible to everyone. This is Jack Wallace on What Does It Take?
Oh, wow. Thanks for that intro. Thanks for having me on. Tell you about myself. Well, I grew up in New Jersey. I'm a lifelong hockey fan. Played sports my whole life. Grew up playing sports nonstop, and then lost my right leg at the age of 10 and never wanted to stop. Found sled hockey, found the Paralympic movement, and just kept on trucking. And it was always my dream to be a professional athlete, and I just had to kind of find a different road to get there.
When you were talking about that, kind of like the hair on my neck stood up a little bit because there was some stuff that you were just saying that I could relate to. But before we get into that, here is the question for you. I've been thinking about this for a little while now, and I want to know, so obviously I have no arms, okay? I do like watching sled hockey. Do you think I have what it takes to actually be on maybe Team USA or play sled hockey?
I think you could definitely play sled hockey. There's quite a few players around the country and probably even the world that will play with either prosthetics, or they will play where they sort of attach the sticks to their residual limbs when they have upper extremity injuries, limb loss, limb difference, stuff like that. So I would love to get you in a sled and get you ripping around out there.
Wait a minute. Don't they tie you in? Like, aren't you, it's kind of like, would that be considered like, what's the proper term? It's not a shoe, right? But you sit in this.
Yeah, there's the bucket.
Mm-hmm. The bucket.
Yeah, you're strapped into the bucket.
Okay, so that would eliminate me using my legs.
Yeah, definitely. Something you're probably not very used to.
No, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So, like, would you just duct tape a hockey stick to, like, my shoulder and then
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So maybe there is hope for me after all.
We'll see you at next year's tryouts.
Well, for as much as I like the cold, I probably stick with the summer stuff. But I did notice that you were like a multisport athlete, or tried to do a multisport athlete, where I just want to touch base on this a little bit, where you might have tried out for para canoeing. Now, para canoeing is very similar, as in you're sitting down, just like sled hockey, right? And you're using your arms to row. Is it the proper term is row? And
Paddling.
Paddling. Comparing canoeing with sled hockey, I feel like there's a lot of similarities between the two. Could you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, as far as the muscle groups you use, the explosiveness, the intensity of it, the training really lends itself to both sports. I think training for paracanoe probably made me a better skater for sled hockey. So, it's no surprise when you train to be fast, you get faster. So that kind of helped me out in that world, where now on the ice, I'm one of the faster skaters on the team and in the world. So definitely helped that way. And yeah, I tried, I've been on the U.S. Paracanoe national team for about 6 years now. I've been to a couple world championships, and I got pretty close, about as close as you can get to qualifying for Paris, but came up just short. I'm happy I got that close. I don't know if you know, but the kind of my own way that I justify it is that the sled hockey world championships and the paracanoe world championships and the Paris last chance qualifier got scheduled on the same weekend.
Oh no.
So I had to fly from Calgary to Hungary and back and try and qualify for Paris while also competing at the sled hockey world championship. So it was kind of as soon as that happened, it kind of wrote my chances off almost completely. But I was happy with how close I got. I'll say that.
You're like the ultimate multitasker.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm living the dream. I'm beyond grateful to have this opportunity, and that's why I devote myself to it.
Earlier on, when you first came out, we were talking a little bit about going fast. Have you ever put a time on how fast you can go from one side of the hockey rink to the other? You said you're very quick. Is it 5-10 miles per hour? Do you need like a turbo for that, or?
No, we actually did a study at CU Boulder, and we found that we're skating over 18 miles an hour. So pretty quick for using your arms.
How fast are you slap shotting a hockey puck?
We can shoot the puck around 60 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness. What? Okay, so I have to ask this question because it's are there penalties for fighting with each other? Like, is that like a thing?
Yeah.
Really? So explain to me like the rules of engagement then, I guess, when it comes to getting into a little bit of an altercation.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what tournament you're in, which refs you have, how the game's kind of gone. If there's a lot of cheap shots, if there's a lot of kind of dirty stuff going on, then if you decide to fight, a ref can just immediately toss you out of the game and eject you from the game. Every once in a while, if you get in a little skirmish and it's, pretty even and nothing that crazy happened, they'll just give you both a roughing penalty and you go sit in the box for a few minutes and then the game goes on.
Tell me about a rotation. Like, explain it to the listeners. Like, if you were on a rotation, what would that look like in time, minutes on the ice versus, off the ice?
Yeah, so there's 5 skaters on the ice, typically 3 forwards and 2 defenders. So sometimes forwards will get off a little bit before defenders because sometimes if it's deep in a zone, you're not doing much as a defender. But you're trying to be on the ice for about 45 seconds to a minute, and then you're trying to get off and get some fresh bodies out there because it's so intense and so fast. But the other aspect of it is mental. You're not going to be as mentally fresh, keeping track of 10 different people and the puck and where everyone is, keeping track of all of those things for 45 seconds is pretty mentally taxing as well. So it's not just about getting fresh bodies out there. It's about getting fresh, a fresh mind out there who, when you're a little tired, you're a little more gassed after a minute, you might be more a bigger chance of you making a bigger mistake when you're that tired and gassed.
I tell people all the time that archery's mental.
I'm sure, yeah.
Now listening to you talk about what you do and understanding how mental it is, that all makes sense. And I'm starting to understand that a lot of athletes who have gotten to the elite level they're looking for have understood that it's not necessarily the physical anymore. When you want to get to that next level, it now becomes mental. So that's just something interesting that I just learned about that. So I think I want to switch gears just a little bit. I think we've talked a little bit, quite a bit about the sport and kind of the rules and how intense it is, and the fact that you go like crazy. So you have to be very much in shape. But I guess I would like to talk a little bit more about your childhood. Most good stories always come from childhood, in the upbringing of that. And I guess I would like to discuss, I was reading some information on you, and it says, yes, you came from New Jersey, you were a sports-driven household, you liked hockey, football, basketball, lacrosse, wrestling, and it says you picked up hockey around the age of 3, playing in the driveway with your older brother. Can you, I guess, talk to me a little bit about your mindset when it came to when you were younger, right?
As like a, 8-9-year-old kid, I wouldn't really say that I had a mindset. It was just my favorite thing to do in the world. So I never wanted to stop, right? So I got to go hang out with my friends, play sports, have fun. That's what I spent my entire childhood doing. So when it was, when it got to October, it was time to put the football pads and the roller hockey pads on and ice hockey pads on, and kind of the summer sports fell away and you started playing winter sports. And then when spring came, you had baseball, you had wrestling, you had, so it was just a year-round thing. And then even when we weren't weren't on teams, it was me and my brother just playing in the backyard, going to the rec field and bringing a bag with a football, baseball, mitt, bat, volleyball, frisbee, golf clubs, literally everything, and just spend all day out there and just play sports and have fun.
So mainly you're just like super active is really what the important part was, that you were super active. Would you say you were still kind of trying to find your way at that age, as far as you kind of liked all of it?
I definitely had my favorites. I for sure preferred football and hockey as my two main sports, probably because of the physicality of the two. I was a bigger kid. I would roughhouse and wrestle with my brothers all the time, so that physicality and that intensity really drove a lot of that passion and energy, and it just makes the sport more fun. It makes it feel like there's that level of extra danger, like I'm sure you feel when you're behind the wheel of that drag car. So yeah, it's just that extra little oomph that gives sports a little extra edge when you're playing, compared to a sport like golf or baseball or something like that, where there's still plenty of fun and I really enjoyed them, but just football and hockey always had that special place, that I just enjoyed it way more.
So up to from when you were born to you were 10, you have this dream of, just being a professional athlete. You're kind of leaning towards more like the NHL, things like that. And then something happens in 2010 that kind of changes your life.
Yeah. We were on a family vacation up in Lake George, New York. It was kind of our family tradition every summer. That was our family trip. We would go up to Lake George, New York. Beautiful, stunning lake, crystal clear water, glacier, like the whole thing. It's amazing up there. And we would rent a campsite. And then we found out that you can rent campsites on the lake on an island.
What?
And we would, be up there the whole week. This is always around July 4th. We'd be fishing, water skiing, cooking, playing games, all that great stuff. And then July 3rd, 2008, was our last day there. We were going to drive home on the morning of the 4th and then enjoy, the town barbecue and stuff like that. And then it was our last run of the day. Me and my sister were doing doubles off the same boat.
Explain doubles to me, because I tubed and I don't remember it being doubles.
Yeah, so we were water skiing, and instead of having one line out with one skier, we just had two lines out with two skiers, right? So it's a little more, it's more fun. You can kind of like spray each other, you can cross up lines, and we were pretty good at it. We did it every summer, so it was a really fun pastime for us.
So you're 10. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're 10. I just need to wrap my head around this. You're 10 years old, and you're basically tandeming, right, with your sister. Okay.
Yeah.
And on skis and doing tricks and crisscrossing. So I kind of feel you like adrenaline at this point.
Definitely.
Because I'm trying to visualize me at 10, what I was doing, and I don't. Okay, keep going.
So my sister falls, so I let go, so we're a little bit separated. And then there's kind of a special technique that you have to do when water skiing, to get the rope back to the skier. You kind of have to circle around them. Because we were doing two people, my dad was kind of having to do figure eights around me and my sister. And I decided to start swimming closer to the boat, to try and make that process a little easier, and so we could keep going before we lost the light. We wanted to get more. Of course, I just was worried about getting more runs in. So then as my dad turns to see where my sister is and where I am, the chair actually swings around and hits the throttle of the boat. So basically the chair hits the throttle, the boat spins around and runs me over. So the front of the boat hits my right side, breaks my hip, my femur, and then the propeller strikes my right leg and basically shreds my right leg, from my butt all the way to my Achilles heel. So then obviously immediately it's a disaster. It's an incredibly traumatic event. But three incredible, whatever you want to call it, miracles happened that day. The first, my dad was in the military, so he immediately jumped into action. He pulls me out of the water. My femoral artery is severed, so he immediately finds some extra rope, or I actually don't know what he used. but he puts a tourniquet on my leg to try and stop the bleeding. Because at this point, I'll bleed out in minutes if I don't have a
Wow.
tourniquet on. And then we don't have a cell phone. It's 2008. We're in the middle of a lake. We have no way to get in touch with people. But we have this old radio on the boat that we had used maybe one time since it was a used boat, so we didn't know how it worked. We had turned it on one time maybe. So my brother he turns on the radio and starts flipping through channels, and there's a guy, mind you, this is July 3rd. So people are with their families at barbecues, celebrating, doing whatever. This retired police officer is sitting in his garage with a radio on, just scanning channels, and he hears our distress signal, right?
Wow.
He hears my brother screaming, saying, SOS, please help. He coordinates with us. He calls an ambulance. He tells us which marina to go to. He tells the ambulance which marina to go to. And as we're pulling up to the marina, the ambulance is backing down the boat ramp. So
Oh
I
my
literally
goodness.
my dad has a tourniquet on me at this point. I'm completely blacked out, going into shock. So I go literally from the boat into an ambulance. And there was another accident that day somewhere else. So there was already a life flight helicopter that was in the air after they had just dropped a patient off at a trauma center. So they were able to vector the helicopter straight to us. So I don't know where it happened, somewhere in a field or somewhere. The ambulance was giving me life-saving care.
Of course, you don't know, like in your mind, you don't remember any of this, right?
I remember a good bit. I remember getting pulled out of the water. I remember my dad put me face down on the tube. I kind of black out for a little bit. I wake up. I hear my brother, screaming on the radio. And then I remember getting put into the ambulance. I remember the paramedic that was in the ambulance. Keep in contact. We keep in contact with her to this day. Renee, wonderful lady. I remember her. She kept asking me over and over and over again what my name was. And and at one point they kept taking the oxygen mask off me to answer, to get me to talk and stay awake as long as possible. And I did have some pretty, like, in my head, I was kind of thinking, I had those thoughts that, I think I'm dying, right? Like it's a tough thing for a 10-year-old to kind of realize or to think of. But I remember vividly being in the ambulance when things started blacking out. That was definitely going through my head. And then, we managed to get I managed to get life flighted to a trauma hospital. They put me into a 3-day coma, and basically the decision was either try and save my leg and pretty good chance of me dying, or amputate my leg. And still not a great chance, but a better chance at me living. Because at that point, I had lost around 7 pints of blood.
Oh my
As a
goodness.
10-year-old boy, and I think an adult male has 4 to 5 pints of blood. I think that's the right number. It was a rough couple days.
Okay, so you get out of this coma, and what happens now, like, that leads you into pursuing, falling in love with sled hockey? So you're 10 years old, coma, now you find sled hockey.
Yeah, it was definitely a process. I spent the next about 12 weeks in the hospitals, going from the ICU for a few weeks into the normal hospital, then a rehabilitation center, and then a few months later, getting my first prosthetic. And the first thing I did when I got my first prosthetic was put those rollerblades on that I had, got
No
the summer
way.
before, because I was like, in my head, I'm like, as soon as I get a prosthetic leg, as soon as I get my leg back, I'll just start playing hockey again. Right. That was kind of my thing.
Was the prosthetic leg like a carbon fiber leg? Was it a pretty realistic leg?
No, it was the beginner, cheapo hinge and a spring. Yeah, it was a pretty, it's what you give a 10-year-old kid who's learning how to walk again, right? You don't give him some high-tech, expensive thing. So of course I get in the garage, put my rollerblades on, and just start falling on my butt nonstop. And that was really tough, because that was kind of when I realized that, in my head that hockey and kind of sports in general had been taken from me. So that next year was tough because all of my friends were all the people that I knew on the hockey team, the football team, the baseball, right? That's who I hung out with every day after school, on the weekends, traveling together. So it was a rough year. I even stopped watching the NHL. I'm a diehard Devils fan. I have been my whole life. And then that year I like was barely even watching the Devils games, which I would never
Wow.
miss with my brother and my dad.
Sure.
It was really tough. But then that following summer, I go to a camp called Camp No Limits. It's a nonprofit organization that you know helps kids and families dealing with limb loss, limb difference. Um, get together, show kids that you're not the only person dealing with this. Because in my situation, right, I'd never met another amputee. My family didn't know anything. So there's the camper support group, there's the parent support group, there's also the sibling support group, right? So because everyone needs support in that situation, and a volunteer as we're sharing information, talking about adaptive sports and all these different things, sled hockey comes up, right? He asked me, I still keep in contact to this guy, with this guy too, Tom. He's a prosthetist. He asked me what my favorite sport was. And I said hockey, and he knew about sled hockey. He's from Massachusetts area. He knows the local teams. He goes, "Oh, have you ever heard of sled hockey?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" And immediately that summer, maybe 2 weeks after we got home from the camp, we find a local team in Woodbridge, New Jersey. And I get back on the ice, and I do a couple laps, and I got a smile, ear to ear on my face, and yeah, and I look at my mom, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm back on the ice." And then and I didn't know at that point, I didn't know about the Paralympics, I didn't know about the U.S. national team or anything like that. I was just happy to be playing sports again, and I was just so happy to be playing the sport that I love. Getting that camaraderie with people in the locker room, your teammates playing pranks on each other, snapping jokes around. But then the following year, this is 2010 now, Josh Pauls, the current captain of the U.S. national team, made his first Paralympic team in Vancouver in 2010. So we obviously and he started out in Woodbridge, New Jersey. I'd gotten to meet him a few times. People were saying, he's on the U.S. national team. I didn't really know what that meant. And then
Were you like looking up
uh,
to him though a little bit? Because you
no,
kind
I
of
mean he was the best player on the team, right? So like I didn't understand the reference point as to he was on the U.S. team because I didn't know that existed. But he was by far and away the best player on the team. So I was like, oh, this guy's sick at hockey. I want to be like I want to be like him.
you basically found your kind of like your Michael Jordan guy to look up to ish. Like you
Yeah,
the guy
we're getting there. We're
okay.
getting there. Don't worry. So that following summer, or that really the following winter, right in March, me and my dad we hear that the U.S. team is in the gold medal game in Vancouver, and this was my first time ever watching the Paralympics. And I get to watch the game. I get to see this guy that I met play on TV on a team and win a gold medal. And then he brings that gold medal back to Woodbridge, New Jersey, back to the rink where we all started, right? And he shows me and my dad, and we're touching it, we're taking pictures with it. And my dad just looks at me and goes, "What do you think?" And I'm looking at the medal, and I look at him and I say, "I'm in." And that was the moment, right?
Oh.
That was the the inciting incident that got me to make this my dream, make this my goal. When I realized, like, oh, this can be a real thing. I can do this, right? I can get to the Paralympics. I can be a hockey player on the world stage.
So I just listened to you talk about your accident. So let's talk post accident here. What did it take, or what does it take for you to get from post accident to uh, an elite level as being a para ice hockey player?
It took a big support system, like we talked about, my family supporting me every step of the way. It took guidance, mentorship from coaches and other players. It also took lots of little goals. It took lots of little wins time and time again to build to that one big goal of finally making the US national team, right? There were so many steps along the way that needed to be completed. Um, and I think it also required me to a lot of athletes you have to have the drive, you have to have the perseverance. I think that's kind of just standard at this point, talking amongst our peers, all the athletes you get to talk to. That is just a given in this situation. I think one thing that might go overlooked is keeping the joy, keeping the fun of it, keeping the reason why you started, and never just getting too dredged down in the particulars and those little things that can really just eat at you, and just really having fun. To this day, I'm still smiling on the ice, even when I'm having a bad time. Still gonna crack a joke, still gonna, laugh about something that happened out there, laugh at myself when I miss a wide open net. So yeah, I think that's one of the most important things that's gonna keep you going over a long period of time.
When you listen to yourself, what you just described on what it takes, do you, looking back, like looking at it right now, do you kind of feel like what that took was not virtually, but almost impossible? I mean, you just explained all these things that had to happen to get. Would you say you took it one day at a time as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt I got lucky. There's no doubt that so many things had to fall in place just right for me to get to where I am today. But it happened, and I'm here, and I'm really grateful and happy for it. So that's really all you can really say at the end of the day. And like I said, make the most of it. Right? You're here, you're doing it, and make the most of it. Might as well do something while you're doing nothing.
like running into people and trying to score goals while
Yeah,
winning
it's the best.
Paralympic gold medals, which is amazing. What does it take to get you to the 2026 Milano Cortina Games, Winter Paralympics?
I mean, it took a lot of preparation. It took a lot of changing the way I trained. It took a lot of honestly, it took a lot of education. I think this last quad, I really delved into um, learning more about how you should train, the right way to train, the right way to eat, the right way to sleep, all of these things. Excuse me, all of these things that add up, these little percentages that add up over years and years of doing them the right way to achieve success. So I think it just took a certain level of open mindedness to be able to do it all again, do it healthier, do it better, do it smarter.
You're talking like 4 years between games. That's a
Yeah,
long time.
it is a long time.
If you lose it when it matters, there's no coming back. There's no second chances.
Yeah.
Jack, I need to know what you love about the Winter Paralympics.
I love that. Um, I love that it's a place that athletes from all over the world can come and compete against each other and show the world what true competition is, show the world what adaptive athletes and people with disabilities not only have to go through, but are willing to go through every day just to get to this point, just to be elite athletes, how much extra work it takes, how much time and preparation and planning it takes to get to this elite level while also having this obstacle of having a disability.
Yeah, I thought about that too, as in everyone that you are going up against, everybody at the Winter Paralympics have had something happen in their lives that made them who they are now, and they've had to overcome that first, then find the sport. Yeah, they might have had it before, but then to find the sport that they can adapt to get to the level where they're at. So you guys can be the best in the world, right? I think that's a very powerful thing. I think it shows the world a lot.
100%.
Has your family ever been to a Paralympics before?
Yeah, they got to go in 2018, Pyeongchang. Took a couple years off everyone's life. I don't know if you know how that game went, but
Yeah.
we won it. We tied it up with 30 seconds left in the third period and then went to overtime. So they were all pretty stressed out. No one got to go in Beijing, unfortunately, but I have a big contingent coming over to Milan. I got like 22, 23 people coming over to Milan to cheer me on. So pretty excited for that.
So your family's going to be there in Milan, right? And that's extremely important to you. So it's going to be your potential fifth straight gold. Team USA's
Yeah,
fifth.
team. Yeah.
Okay. is there any doubt as far as you probably are not thinking about this, and maybe this is why I say knock on wood. I want to ask this: is there any concern about you being the team that maybe doesn't lock up the fifth seed or the fifth time of winning?
I think there was a little bit of that pressure in Beijing, but I really don't think we feel that way. The way we've kind of gone about preparing for this, the way the team has performed the last couple World Championships, the way we've been kind of building and building to this moment. Um, yeah, I definitely know. I'm not going to say that we have no doubt that we'll win the gold medal because it's hockey. Anything can happen. We know that. But I think we're trusting our preparation. We're trusting each other. We're trusting in the fact that we know we're the best team. So if we prepare the right way, if we execute the right way, then the results should go our way. And that's kind of what we're putting our trust in.
When you talk about 2022, that was COVID games. It says in here that you were named the best defenseman by Team USA. What do you think it takes to kind of get back to that level for this round of Paralympics?
I mean, funny side note, I didn't even know I won that until like 2 years later. Someone brought it up in an interview, and what are you talking about? No one ever told me that I won.
Wait, they're just like, congratulations, you're the best defensive player.
Yeah,
I mean,
the whole game. Well, whatever. Anyway, no, I mean, I know what it took me to get to that point in Beijing, and I think I'm doing everything that I can, and probably even more than I did to be there in Beijing. And now I think also the sport has progressed. Our team has gotten better to where, I mean, it's the great thing about hockey is it's a team sport. You can't just try and be the best. You can't focus on being the best defenseman. You just have to focus on being the best team, playing your role, doing your part. So I think we're doing a really good job of that. We have this 8-week residency program where the team it's already started. It's a complete transformation from the first day to the last day. We don't really see it as much because we're obviously doing it the whole time. But if you go and look at, for example, the 2021 World Championships and then the Beijing Paralympic Games, you'd think that we are playing two different sports.
Really?
It's so much faster, it's so much more intense, and that's what this year of focused preparation can really give you when we fully commit ourselves and just dial it into the maximum amount you can. The team goes through this insane transformation to where when we put the best product on the ice, no team can really compete with us. And that's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened in Beijing. I mean, we beat Canada 5-0. I think we allowed 7 shots on net.
Wow.
I don't even think they were possessing the puck in our zone. It was a complete, I mean, that's our goal. That's what we want to get back to, obviously. But Canada's their own team. They're trying. They're obviously trying their hardest to not let that happen. And that's the beauty of sport and competition. Because until you're playing, you really don't know what's going to happen.
And now they have a blueprint. I mean, right? They have a kind of a blueprint of what you guys did in 2022. Would you guys say that you try to peak during the Paralympic years versus the World Championship years?
I wouldn't say it's so much peaking because we train really hard every year. We have a full season every single year to where we have multiple World Cups and then a World Championship and a Paralympic Games. I think it's just the preparation is just that much more intense when it's a Paralympic year. We have that much more funding, that much more scrutiny, that much more everything is just amped up to where. Everyone just really, really has to be on the same page. To whereas World Championship years just doesn't have that level of importance.
Sure. Okay. So let's. I want to kick to Milano Cortina for a little bit. The 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Paralympics, to be exact. I know that is in Italy. Have you been to Italy before?
I have.
Oh, okay.
I've been a couple times.
Same
really
kind of location and place?
I've been to Milan 3 times now. Yeah, I love it there.
And so is there anything that you're taking away from that? Like for me, I went to Paris 8 months out, and then I actually went over there a month before the Paralympic Games started, and I was really able to use that to help me focus, like kind of get the lay of the land and understand, the culture, the people, and the atmosphere. Do you think that's an advantage for you going into this games because you've been there before?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in Jersey, so I grew up with a lot of Italians, so I'm used to it. But no, I love the culture there. It's a little different because the other two games I was in were in Pyeongchang and Beijing, so a lot more of a culture shock.
Sure.
The food's very different. The culture's different. The people, the language is very, very different. There's no way you can. It's very difficult to pick up phrases. Whereas Italian, it's a little easier. You kind of hear it a little more often. But yeah, it's great to, like you said, get the lay of the land. We've actually just had a big meeting with our nutritionist who went over what the village is going to look like, what the mess hall is going to look like, the different food options they have, kind of because obviously you have to dial in your nutrition
Sure.
quite a bit. So we got that working. We're planning out those strategies because everyone's different, right? Some guys like certain foods, so. Are you chuckling because you didn't do that much in Paris?
Well, no, I'm chuckling because that kind of gets thrown out the window a little bit because it's like a big buffet, and
Yeah,
it's kind of
there's
hard.
still
But
some.
the main thing
Yeah.
is if they give you these chocolate fudge muffins like they did,
Oh yeah, I was bummed I missed out on
you're
those.
yeah, you're gonna have to restrain yourself because they are amazing, right? So, that I think that's
We have an inside joke on the team that desserts equal points.
okay.
So it's not. It's just a running inside joke that at one tournament, uh, a couple players were like they weren't going to eat desserts just to be a little bit more committed to their diet and the nutrition of everything, and they just got like completely skunked the whole tournament. Like they
Oh,
didn't score at all.
no.
And then me and a couple other guys that were eating desserts, we like had such a great tournament. And then I put in an Excel spreadsheet, like because I was in college for engineering, so I was constantly doing numbers and stuff. So I put it in like the ratio of desserts to points scored per game.
Uh, I'm guessing, did that work out good for you, and your team, or some of the people on your team and not so good on the others, or?
Well, we all eat a lot more desserts, I'll tell you that much. So I'd say
Ye
that's a net positive.
What about Italy do you think you're gonna love the most?
The food and the coffee. I mean, there's just no competition. I mean, Italy's obviously a beautiful country. Milan's a beautiful city. The Duomo is stunning, but you just can't. Like I said, I grew up eating Italian food in New Jersey. I love espresso. I drink espresso almost every single day. So going over there and getting to, not eat too much, but get my fill of some pizza, pasta, and coffee. I'm pretty excited.
Are you excited about the opening ceremonies?
I would love to go. It's one of the best parts of the games. If I can go, I'm absolutely excited about it, but I'm not sure. That's just one of those things that's kind of out of our hands. But yeah, I heard it's in an old Coliseum,
Oh.
so I'm really, really, even if we don't get to go, I'm sure it'll look amazing. Be part of a really cool historical building. I'm sure I know the Olympic one is in the Milan FC stadium. So, that's obviously going to be unbelievable. But yeah, the Paralympic one, I think it might be a little more special if it's in an old Roman Coliseum. I think that's pretty sick.
I think that's actually pretty awesome. You'll get a chance, whether you go or not, I'm sure, to watch it on TV. The the group play or the pool play that you have to do, is that like start the day after opening ceremonies? Or okay, so I know some athletes don't like to do the opening ceremonies because it usually runs pretty late into the evening, and then you have to wake up early, get ready for pool play. Does that not affect you guys as much?
It definitely would if we had the early game. And fortunately, the day following opening ceremonies, I believe March 7th, we have the late game. So it wouldn't affect us too much. We'd be allowed to sleep in, get some food, and then head over to the rink later in the afternoon.
I was reading, not to go back or whatever, but I was reading that in your hometown you have a street named after you.
Yeah. Yeah, when I won after we won gold in, 2018, the town threw like, they were obviously super excited. They went over the top like crazy. They threw a parade, for in my honor. I was riding on the back of a fire truck with a big American flag hanging off it. They gave me a key to the city, they gave me a day, and then they gave me a street, yeah.
What day
It
did
was,
they give you?
March 17th.
Ah, it's a good one.
Yeah,
My
St. Patty's Day. It's pretty great.
that's perfect. My day is September 23rd.
Nice,
Actually,
nice.
yeah. Okay, so what's the name of the street? Kind of like, is
Jack
it
Wallace Way.
Jack Wallace Way? Okay, that's pretty good. So now I know where to go if I would like to do a burnout. I also read that you do public speaking.
Yeah, yeah, I dabble in that, every once in a while. Every year I go back to, my middle school. They have living lessons where they just, it's sometimes up to 20 speakers. The kids go from that's their entire curriculum that day, where they go from classroom to classroom, hearing all these amazing stories from people from all over the world, going through, all sorts of different things, whether it be Paralympians, whether it be addiction survivors, whether it be military, so many different walks of life. I've done a couple companies. I've done, I do a lot of schools. That's obviously kind of the MO for the message that, I'm trying to spread about sports and the Paralympic movement and just, perseverance and stuff like that. So.
Okay, Jack, this is something new that we never did in season 1. We're gonna call it the Zero Chill with Jack Wallace today. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do quick fire questions. We're looking for fast answers, no hesitations, don't overthink it, no skipping. So I want you to mentally get ready, mentally focus. But this is Zero Chill with Jack Wallace.
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. What part of Italy are you excited to see?
Milan, the Duomo.
One Italian food you can't wait to eat.
Gnocchi.
Spaghetti, linguine, or tortellini?
Linguine.
One thing viewers will love about para ice hockey.
The hitting.
The toughest thing about your training.
Cardio.
If you had to switch to a different para winter sport, which one are you choosing?
Downhill snowboard.
One thing you do to relax.
Play guitar.
Oh, that's a good one. Your hype song before a game.
I don't have a hype song. I listen to really chill music, actually.
Your pregame ritual or superstition.
Throwing a tennis ball against the wall.
One word. What do the Winter Paralympics mean to you?
Oh, no. Family.
I never had anybody answer it with the no. And finally, what does what does it take to be your best?
Preparation.
Bam. I think you nailed it for the first time out.
I'll take it. I think
you did really
set a good bar.
Yeah, I threw in some good questions in there to make you think a little bit. I want to say thank you so much for being on and giving me your time. I know time is the one thing you can't ever get back, so it means a lot that you're on here. I hope I do justice to the Jack Wallace story and telling it and getting it out so everybody can be educated on the Winter Paralympics and your story and what it does take to be the best version of yourself. And thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me. Had a great time.
All right. Hey, Jack, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Go Team USA. And you've been listening to What Does It Take, a podcast brought to you by Rising Phoenix, alongside the Milano Cortina 2026 Paralympic Winter Games. If you like what you've listened to and want to know more about Rising Phoenix, check out the details in our show notes. This is a Harder Than You Think production. This episode is brought to you by P&G, a proud partner of the Paralympic movement.